Chelsea fans, ahead of Chelsea's trip to the Hill Dickinson Stadium to face Everton on Saturday, Rosenoir had his press conference, right? Obviously, this week has been very, very tough for Chelsea Football Club, right? They've lost back-to-back 3 matches in a row. They lost against PSG, they lost against Newcastle, and then again they lost against PSG again. And it looks like after that PSG game, right, we've not scored. We found it very, very difficult to score. So ahead of the game against Everton, Rosenoir gave his press conference and he was asked a few questions, right? First of all, he was asked about the injuries and he talked about Chalobah and Reece James. So he said that Chalobah's injury is not as bad as first feared, right? And that they're looking about 6 weeks, right? So that's great news. 6 weeks is still a long time. But however, if you saw the way the injury happened, it looked as if he was going to be out for a long time. So given the prognosis now, right, as per how bad they thought the injury was and what it actually is, it's a good sign. Reece James, they say they are still monitoring him, that the hamstring is not serious, but that they're looking at probably after the international break, and then they'll be monitoring him week after week, right? So he was asked about, the situation on ground, especially the losses against PSG. And Rosenoir said that him and the squad are determined to make things right. The only thing I have to say about that is that he said this against PSG, right? And he got his tactics all wrong. But however, he said, well, that he's learning about his players. Players make mistakes. He made mistakes. He referenced that, he was asked about his tactics. And he said, well, he probably got some of the tactics wrong as well, but that's obviously the players make mistakes. He didn't want to point out players, but he didn't want to put any player under the bus. But obviously, the players made mistakes, and that especially in the first leg in France, right, against PSG, and that kind of changed the dynamics, especially towards the end of that game. So, but he said that the players have trained very well. He was asked about Mamadou Sarr, right, how Mamadou Sarr has responded, especially that mistake he made in Stamford Bridge that handed Kvaratskhelia the goal. And he said that Sarr is going to be phenomenal, that he's worked with Sarr for 2 years, and that he's a young person, he's a young player, and that he will learn from his mistakes, right? And that that he believes that Sarr is going to be outstanding and is going to be key and central to what Bluco is looking forward to achieve in the coming years. He was asked about Enzo Fernandez and his comments immediately after preceding the PSG game, and Rosenoir said that he spoke at length with him, this morning, and that Enzo Fernandez is committed to the Chelsea project, and that he didn't read anything. There was no sign that Enzo Fernandez actually wants to leave Chelsea, but he's fully committed. My take is that, hey, Rosenoir, he may not even be here at the end of the season. So Enzo may tell you anything, right? There's no smoke without fire. For him to say that interview means that he has an interest. Whether he goes or not, we are going to see. Whether any club is going to be able to actually afford the fees to price him out of Chelsea, we are going to see, right? As per the team news being leaked, he was asked about that. He said that, they figured out who the mole is. He didn't give any specifics as per whether it was internally leaked or externally leaked, but he said that, that has been dealt with internally by the club, right? On the note that he handed out to Garnacho in the 84th minute while Chelsea were losing 3-0, he said, well, that, whether Chelsea is losing 3-0 or winning 3-0, that he always tries at every moment of the match to do the best for the team and then give the players every opportunity to, perform, whether they are losing or winning. So that, people saw him giving the note out to Garnacho as well. But he doesn't see it that way, that he was still trying to do his job and he was trying to still lift the players. He said that when he gave Garnacho that note, that the idea was for, Caicedo to play at right back, and that he didn't want to shout on top of, other people's, right? He just wanted to do, make the change tactically and quietly at that time, right? Anyways, he said that he probably needs a preseason to pass his message and his ideas and his tactics across to the players. But one thing I have to say to Rosenoir is that, look, you shouldn't deviate too much, right, from what the players were used to. Chaloba and what's his name, Fofana, were working perfectly under Enzo Maresca. So I don't know why all of a sudden we are conceding so many goals. You need to change something there. If it's not working, manage the situation until you get to preseason. That is if you get there at all. And then you can, you have enough time to implement whatever you want to implement. Anyways, let me know what you think. Chelsea fans, please subscribe to this channel and comment and let me know what you think of Liam Rosenoir's press conference.